Hi, my name is Joyce Harden. I am a licensed and marriage and family therapist. I honor God today and our jurisdictional prelate, Bishop Joe Ely, our jurisdictional supervisor, Mother Barbara Bryan, and all of the women in Southern California First Ecclesiastical Jurisdiction. Thank you for allowing me to be with you today to talk about mentally surviving after grief and loss. Well, it's been a pretty tough 2 years for all of us, hasn't it? All of us have been touched by grief and loss of a family member or someone we knew who passed as a result of COVID-19, and now the Delta and the other variants. And in addition to the losses as a result of COVID-19, there have been other losses, natural losses from illnesses or natural disasters. The stories are similar and we can all relate to them. A phone call, a text message to pray for someone who's sick or who's in the hospital or someone who was just placed in ICU. And then there's the phone call, a text message saying they didn't make it. I couldn't say goodbye. I couldn't be there with my loved one. The anguish suffered as a result of not being able to be with a loved one and hold their hand and pray with them and say goodbye during their transition. But no matter the cause of the loss, we grieve. And we ask questions that no human can answer, only God. And we try and cope the best we can with the loss. And we grieve. It's a hard thing. It's one of the hardest things I experienced when my mother passed. It's the emotional suffering we feel when someone we love is taken away. But grieving is a natural response to the loss. The pain we feel because of the loss, it can be overwhelming. It doesn't matter how the person passed. We grieve. There's no right or wrong way to grieve. And let me just say that grieving a loved one's passing doesn't magically stop after the funeral. The grieving process takes time. Healing takes time, and it happens gradually. It can't be forced and it can't be hurried. And there's no normal timetable for grieving. So don't let others rush your healing. Don't let others say to you, well, you've grieved long enough, or it is time for you to get on with life. Or, don't let your child see you crying. Be strong for them. Don't let others rush or hurry you through the grieving process. For some people, it may take weeks. For others, the grieving process may last for months. And for others, it may last a bit longer. Whatever your experience is, it's important to be patient with yourself and allow the healing process to take place naturally. You know, I say this often because it's so true. Our God is such an amazing God. He made us so uniquely different. And as a result of us being different, we respond differently to every situation in our life. And grieving is an individual experience. There's no right way and there's no wrong way to grieve. How we grieve depends upon our personality, our coping style, our life experience, our faith, and how significant the loss was to us. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to feel stuck in the middle of heartache with no end in sight. It's okay. It's okay to grieve your way. But I want us to look at some emotional symptoms that you may experience and know that you may experience some of them or all of them. And whatever you experience, know that it's okay. Feeling like you're in a bad dream or questioning your religious or spiritual beliefs, it's okay. Because all of this is normal in the early stages of grief. So some of the emotional symptoms you may experience is shock and disbelief. I remember when one of my nieces passed, I was at Kaiser with my husband. He was having a minor medical procedure done, and I got a phone call telling me that my niece had passed. And you talk about shock and disbelief. I was like, well, I just talked to her a couple of days ago. How can this be? We were planning on having lunch together. I was going to visit her, at her home, and we were just going to spend some time together. So there may be shock and disbelief right after the loss. It may be hard for you to accept what happened. You may feel numb. You may have trouble believing that the loss really happened or even deny that it happened. You may also forget that it happened. And you say, are you serious? How can I forget that a loved one of mine passed? Well, let me give you some examples. When my mother passed, shortly after she passed, I picked up the phone to call her, as I usually do when something's on my mind. I want to talk to her about it and get her input or advice. And as I was getting ready to call her, I remembered, Mama's gone. She's not there. Or you may get in your car to go and visit your loved one, and you may start the car up. And then at that point, remember, what am I doing? They're not there. Or you may expect them to walk through the door any minute now, coming home from work. Or you may call out their name, even though you know they're gone. The other emotion is sadness. And this is an emotion that it is really difficult to explain to someone else while we're experiencing it. It's an overwhelming emotion. And sadness may include feelings of emptiness, despair, longing for the person, or feeling very lonely. You may cry a lot or feel unstable emotionally. You may want to scream, yell, or run. And you know what? It's okay. And then there's guilt, regret, or feeling guilty about what was done, what wasn't done, what was said, what wasn't said. The guilt may be for not doing more to prevent the loss, even though there was nothing you could have done. It was completely out of your control. And then there is the emotion of fear. The loss of a loved one can trigger worries and fears. If it was a spouse, a family member, parent, a child, a relative, we may feel anxious, helpless, or insecure about the future. Facing life without that person can seem unbearable. There may be responsibilities that that person handled or took care of that now lies to you to take care of. And you may say, well, what am I going to do? They did these things. How am I going to get through without them? And also the fear may trigger fears about our own mortality. But I want you to remember 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. And then there's the emotion of anger. Even though the loss was most likely nobody's fault, we may feel angry and resentful, angry with ourselves, angry with others, angry with the doctors. Well, didn't they know? Shouldn't they have known? Or anger with the person who died for leaving us. You may feel the need to blame someone for the loss. We know that our emotional states can also affect our physical states. So the physical symptoms that you may experience are fatigue. I'm just tired. Just tired. Just don't want to do anything. Nausea. I remember when my brother passed, I felt so nauseated. Then there's weight loss or weight gain, aches and pains, insomnia. All of this is normal during the grieving process. And know that grieving is an individual thing. And please remember to take it at your own pace, that there's no right way or wrong way for grieving. And in addition to the emotional and physical symptoms that I've just explained, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she said there are 5 stages that we go through. And I hope that these stages may help you further understand what's going on during the grief and loss. The first stage, she said, is denial. This can't be happening to me. Feeling powerless. We don't want the loss to be real. We may feel like it was a dream and you know what, I'm going to wake up any moment now and know that this nightmare just did not happen. And then the second stage is anger. We might get angry with the situation. We might turn our anger towards others, and we may turn it inward, especially when others are trying to help. We may get angry toward them. We may feel angry at the person again for leaving us, or just angry in general. I remember when my mother passed, I was living in New York, and my 2 older sisters, they were in California where my mother was when she passed. And I remember being so angry with my sisters. Why didn't you do something? You should have done this. You should have done that. What was going on with mom? Didn't you all know what was happening with her? And then I turned that anger in on myself. Well, if you had moved to New York, maybe you could have been there to have done something. But you know what? Her doctor told us there was nothing that we could have done. And then the third stage is bargaining. Well, we bargain with God. God, if this, if that, maybe this, maybe that, knowing all the time that there is nothing that can be done to bring the person back. The fourth stage is depression. And I will talk about depression a little later on. But let me just address it being one of the 4 stages according to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And this stage hits very hard on many levels. This stage may seem endless. It may feel like we just don't want to do anything. It's a challenge just to get up and open or close the blinds. It can feel like hope died when our loved one died, and that there is absolutely no reason to continue on without them. This stage can be one of the most challenging stages of all. Just not wanting to do anything, being irritable, just leave me alone, isolating yourself, not wanting to talk to anybody. And irritability is a symptom of depression. And then there is acceptance. People make the mistake of thinking that this stage is where the person is saying everything's okay, that we're okay. But that's not acceptance. Rather, acceptance is accepting reality, not liking it, but accepting it. And at this stage, we understand that the loss happened and there is nothing that we can do about it. It's completely out of our control. There is no reversing it. This is the reality stage. This is accepting that the loved one is gone and being at peace with it. So now, you've told me about the emotional and physical symptoms that I may expect. You even told me about the 5 stages. But how do I mentally survive after the grief and loss? Again, we do know that grieving a loss is a part of life, but there are ways to help cope with the pain. So I want to give you 8 ways that will hopefully help you manage and survive after the grief and loss. The first one is give yourself permission to feel. Acknowledge the pain, acknowledge the loss. Grieving is a normal part of dealing with the loss and healing. And be sure to recognize the need to grieve and let it run. As I said earlier, people may say, don't let your children see you cry. Don't be strong for them. Acknowledge that you need to grieve so that you can heal and so that grieving can take its natural course. So your emotional health will be better served if you face the grief. And number 2, continue to stay prayerful. You know, God said that he will never leave us nor forsake us. Stay close to God. 3, write a letter to the deceased loved one expressing your feelings. You know, writing a letter about your emotions can be very cathartic, and it can help with coping with the loss. And then journal about positive memories. Journal about why you love them and the joy you shared together, special days that you shared together, holidays you shared together, those movies that you watched together, you know, things that you laughed about, the silly things that they did or said that just really stick out in your mind. Journal about positive memories. That vacation you took, or the time you walked together and just held hands, or whatever it was, whatever that memory is. Journal about positive memories. And then reach out to someone else. You know, as we reach out to other people during our time of grief and loss, it can be healing. Support your loved ones during their grieving. Grief is not age specific. Children and teenagers and adults, we all grieve. And remember, everyone has their own unique way of grieving. There's no set way to grieve. Be there to listen and comfort them. And with children, be there to listen and be supportive. That is very critical for children, is to be able to listen to them, answer their questions during this time, because you know, we know children have such vivid imaginations, and they will make up stories about the loss, and they may even blame themselves. I had one little 8-year-old client. Her dad drowned in his parents' pool, and she just blamed herself, thought there was something that she could do, you know. But her mother and I sat down and we listened to her, answered her questions, and explained to her there was nothing that she could do. And in order to help her heal, she and I, we were able to create a memory box for her. Her dad loved Dodgers, going to Dodger games. So she got his Dodger cap and put in the box, and he loved to go fishing, and she got some of his fishing items and put in the box, and pictures of when the family were together. She just started collecting items that would go into her memory box, that as she got older, she could go back and she could relive some of these memories that she had with her dad, and knowing that there was nothing that she could have done. So reach out to someone else. And also teenagers. We know that our teenagers, sometimes they feel like they have a little bit more power than they do, but they also grieve, but they grieve differently. And they also may blame themselves for it and create their own stories. Reach out to them and support them and let them know that there is nothing that you could have done. And then talk to someone. Seek out support from someone who care about you, someone who don't mind you calling them in the middle of the night just to listen to you and pray with you, or call them in the wee hours of the morning just to listen to you and pray with you. And let me just say this, that as we support others in their grief and loss, let us be there for them, to listen to them and not ask questions about, well, how did it happen? What happened? But just listen to them and then say to them, whenever you need me, I am here. Not if you need me. Whenever you need me, I'm here to listen to you. I'm here to sit and have a cup of coffee with you and just not even say a word. I'm here to take a walk with you and just be quiet. Just sit with you and be there to just listen to them. And then there is number 7. Support yourself emotionally by taking care of yourself physically. Take walks. If you don't feel like going back to the gym, just take short walks. Keep those doctor's appointments, because your emotional health is very important to your physical health. So take care of your emotional health and your physical health as you go through the emotional roller coaster of mourning. And then number 8, recognize the difference between grief and depression. And I said I was going to talk about depression. Unresolved or complicated grief, it can lead to major depression. It can also lead to other mental health problems and other medical problems. So, as I said earlier, there's no time limit for grief, and hopefully it will lessen with time. But if the grief gets worse over time instead of getting better, or if it interferes with your ability to function in daily life, please seek out a grief counselor or a mental health professional who can help you reestablish a sense of control and direction in your life and help you return to the path toward healing. Well, I've given you 8 steps of coping skills that I hope will help you during the grief and loss of a loved one. But I also want to remind us that after that, there's an anniversary of the death. And the anniversary can evoke powerful memories and feelings about the events surrounding the loved one's passing. For example, you might remember in great detail where you were and what you were doing when your loved one passed. It may trigger emotions of grief and loss all over again. But as you continue to heal, there are steps you can take to cope with the reminders of the loss. Number 1, be prepared. Know that it's coming, but also know that the emotions that you feel are normal because of the anniversary of the death. And then plan a distraction if that is something you would like to do. Maybe schedule a gathering or visit friends or loved one during this time if you don't want to be alone. Reminisce about your relationship. Focus on the good things about the relationship with your loved one and the times you had together rather than the loss. Focus on those times that you laughed together, those silly things that they did that just caused you to just remember the good things about them. Maybe how they walked, their smile, whatever it was. Remember the positive things about the relationship rather than the loss. And then start a new tradition. Make a donation if you want to a charitable organization in your loved one's name on their birthday or a holiday. My son and my daughter-in-law on Mother's Day we go to the park and we release balloons. I release a balloon in honor of my mom, my son in honor of his paternal grandmother, and my daughter-in-law in honor of her mother. And we do this, and as we do this, we will stand with the balloons and we'll say something that maybe they did or said that imparted those golden nuggets of wisdom into our lives that we carried with us, and we have applied them in our lives together. I remember things that my mom said. My son, he remembers the times that he would be in the kitchen cooking with his paternal grandmother. And then my daughter-in-law, she remembers times that she and her mom spent together. This releasing of balloons helps my daughter-in-law to continue healing, especially on Mother's Day when her mom is not with her. And then connect with others. Draw friends and loved ones close to you, including people who are special to your loved one. Find someone who will encourage you to talk about your loss, and stay connected with your usual support system, to your pastor, to your friends. You may even consider joining a bereavement support group. And then allow yourself to feel a range of emotions. As I said, it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel a sense of loss. But also, in feeling a range of emotions, allow yourself to experience joy and happiness at God allowing you to have spent time with that person, and God allowing that person to be a part of your life. That's one of the greatest joys that we get when my son and my daughter-in-law go and release those balloons. As we watch them go up to heaven, we just thank God for allowing these people to be a part of our lives and imparting these golden nuggets of love and wisdom into our lives. So remember the good things about that person. Celebrate their life. You may find yourself laughing and crying at the same time, laughing at something silly that they said or did, and then crying because you're sad because they're no longer with you. But celebrate their life and thank God for them having spent time with you and been a part of your life. Well, loss is difficult for all of us. And we never get over the grief and loss that we suffer. We never get over it. And we never stop longing for that person. But we accept it. And we can mentally survive it. I hope this helps you better manage the grieving process and know that you can mentally survive after the grief and loss. Thank you for allowing me to be with you today. God bless you.